On this episode to talk about games, we're going to do something a little different. Instead of talking about a console or a news article or something like that, we're going to talk about a topic. And our topic for today is monetization affecting game design? I really thought that this was an important topic to talk about because I'm noticing things in the gaming industry. I'm feeling like things are changing. And the first example I really wanted to highlight was the Zelda franchise. Okay. You look at Zelda on NES, and you look at Zelda on Wii or, something like that. And it's basically the same thing. It's a single-player game experience.
Sure.
That, except for Four Swords and stuff, but forget about that for a second.
Right. Like the main games, right?
Yeah. It's a single-player game experience that has... There's no add-ons. There's no additional purchases. You buy Zelda. I own Zelda. I own everything about it. But now you get into Breath of the Wild, and you could tell that the game was built to be expandable.
Sure. Because now there's downloadable content that comes out after you initially purchase the game, and you have to buy it in addition to what you've already paid.
Right. Exactly. And you could tell that they built the game with what a lot of games have now, the season pass structure. Like somebody buys the common games that had it were like Call of Duty or Battlefield or those types of games, shooters, multiplayer shooters. But now we're seeing the season pass model of these multiplayer shooters come into Zelda. And to me, the fact that Nintendo is taking note of this new model, that's really, really a big change.
That's true.
I think that the start of it actually happened quite a long time ago, but not, but in the PC world. And that was with games like EverQuest and World of Warcraft. Before EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Ultima Online, and games like that, you bought a game and you owned it. But
that's the way I grew up with it.
Right?
Yeah.
You stick it in the console, no patches, no nothing, but because they had to maintain servers. Because there was money involved.
Yeah.
They have servers. They have help desks.
And those older games that came out in the 90s, early 2000s, those games were popular then. But 20 years later, they have to shut those servers down because nobody's playing those games anymore.
Right. But the servers today for your World of Warcrafts and stuff like that, those servers are up because people are paying money.
Right. People are still
People are paying money. And, that was kind of the status quo for a long time. For maybe 20 years. That was the 15, 20 years. That was the status quo. Then subscription fees got destroyed by the freemium model. And freemium, it started with games like Farmville or, games free.
But then, yeah, it's like you have to buy all this shit in addition to it. As you're playing it, it's like, oh, if you want this roller coaster, play for 5 months and then you can get it. Or spend $1 and you can get it right now.
Exactly. But then it was kind of like a mobile game thing. It wasn't on consoles.
Sure. Well, on like Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was on Facebook, it was on mobile, but no, there wasn't like a DS game that was freemium.
Yeah.
And then you started seeing those features from the freemium games going into games like World of Warcraft, the original subscription model games. And it was interesting because there was a lot of trouble with World of Warcraft and Diablo when there was like the Diablo real money auction house. And there was in World of Warcraft, now you can buy a mount. You could buy the Celestial Steed.
So where you're going with this is microtransactions destroy gameplay?
Well, yeah, because wouldn't you like there was this Celestial Steed that you could get. It had it was like a horse that had stars on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
And you could buy it.
Sure.
Then you could buy plushies and get pets and stuff like that. But then you could buy a character upgrade to level 60. And then Diablo comes out and there's a real money auction house where you could spend real money to buy online items in the game from other players. That was the model for a while, and there was a lot of fan backlash. There's a lot of backlash when you could spend money to upgrade your character.
Yeah, because some people put in the time and the effort and the work to get that, and other people just pay.
Right.
So that's kind of...
So the advent of modern monetization affecting gameplay was with CS:GO, with Counter-Strike. Because in Counter-Strike, you had the skins, gun skins, player skins, all of that. And then in Team Fortress, similar to Counter-Strike, also a Valve game, you had the hats. And there was a hat economy and a skin economy. And then in Counter-Strike, people were using the skins to bet on games.
Right.
So it became like gambling became a thing.
You were mentioning like Zelda earlier. One of the examples I can think of is the amiibos. I didn't like the whole situation really.
Right.
Because, okay, you play Legend of Zelda, you have Link. Link has his classic green outfit. You expect that when you're playing Zelda. You turn on Breath of the Wild, he doesn't have the outfit, which is fine for a little while, but when you play like Wind Waker, you don't have your outfit at first, but 25 minutes, 30 minutes into the game, you have your outfit and you're going on your quest, and it's good. With Breath of the Wild, you don't get the outfit for a very long time. Apparently, from what I've heard, you can get the outfit
every shrine. If you beat every shrine,
right? But
you get the tunic of the wild.
But that makes no sense to me, because then you're practically at the end. I know the game, like, I guess doesn't really end because it's like open world, whatever. But like then you've done that entire quest, that entire adventure. You've experienced the entire game without really being Link as we knew him. So it doesn't feel like Zelda. What I did was I got the amiibo, and I got the classic outfit quickly because I got the amiibo, but I had to buy the amiibo. Actually, I think you gave it to me.
Yeah, I gave it to you.
Yeah, Ryan gave it to me. Thank you, by the way. And but that's how I got the outfit, because I wanted to play Zelda as like Link, as I know Link. And I think that that's really stupid. First of all, the fact that you have to pay just to have the outfit is like, that shouldn't be how it is. And also have to go through the entire game basically, and then you finally get the outfit, but at that point you're probably moving on to some other game, really. So
well, you're not, because you got the season pass and you're playing. I mean, there was a lot of things. You had a lot of criticisms of Zelda. You were like, I wish there was a big dungeon. Well, guess what? Now there's a big dungeon, a big challenge dungeon.
Okay.
Right? You're like, oh, I wish they had more of like the stuff from the classic games like Twilight Princess and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now Majora's Mask is in it. Twilight Princess stuff is in it. You know.
But it's like. But I've already formed my opinion of the game because I played it when the game came out, and so now I'm supposed to go back and be like, okay, well now I can get all the stuff that I wanted. But it's like now it's after the fact, and I've moved on with my life. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of. It's kind of a change in psychology from the way that people look at games. Like, when you played a game as a kid, did you play that game as your main video gaming pursuit for 2 years?
Okay, that's a great topic, because I've never played video games like that ever. I grew up going to the arcades, and like you have a bunch of arcades, you pop in a quarter, you play it for 10 minutes, you're done with that, you play another one at the arcade, or then at home, I had the Atari 2600, it was my first console, and those games are usually pretty short games, and you pop in Pitfall, you play it for 10 minutes, you take it out, you pop in another game, and that's how it was. Then finally you get to the NES. Now you're spending a little more time. You pop in The Legend of Zelda, you might be playing it for 3 hours. You pop in Contra, you might be playing it for an hour or something like that. But now
you don't come home from work every day and play Contra.
So that's my mentality, because that's how I grew up. So when people say now, oh, Mike, why don't you do live streams of such and such game, like like Arkham City or something like that, or like Dark Souls? It's like, I like those games a lot, but am I gonna sit there and play that for like a year on live streams? Like, since I was a kid, had that mentality of pop in a different game, let's have some variety. So I don't do that. And I know there's people that play like Dota and Warcraft, and like that's all they play. People that play Warcraft, I'm not saying that they don't play other games, but it's like that's the main thing that they're playing.
You're absolutely right. I think people who play Dota, people who play CS:GO, people who play League of Legends, people who play Overwatch,
it's almost like
all that.
It's almost like that's kind of their gaming job. And then they might play some games otherwise sometimes, but it's like that's the game that they play.
Right. And publishers saw that and saw that these customers could be high dollar value customers. Mm-hmm. And those people that play games, they play Dota and that's all they play. Those people are driving industry trends. And that's really the point. Because if you're going to play Dota or Warcraft or League of Legends or Overwatch every day of your life. They're going to want to get money from you. And having cosmetic stuff may matter because it's like you play this game so much, it's like buying clothes. Like you want to buy a new shirt or something like that because that's how people see you in the world, right? So you want to have nice clothes or nice image. Well, they're playing those games all the time, so they want their person to be customized to them.
Sure.
And the game publishers see dollar signs because that was the compromise. Because if you make it pay to win, that turned off people. So the money, but they wanted to make the money.
Right.
So then they made it cosmetic, and then they found these hardcore audiences. And then now every game needs to have after-purchase money.
Yeah.
Because if you're Activision, if you're Electronic Arts, if you're now Nintendo, you spend $100 million, $200 million, whatever, making a game, $60 isn't enough.
See, this conversation makes me love retro games all that much more.
Yeah.
Because back then it was like, these developers are going to get together and they're going to make the best game that they can make. And it's all going to be right there on that little cartridge. And there's not anything more than that, other than maybe like a manual or something that you can buy in addition to it, like a strategy guide or something like that. But other than that, everything is on that cartridge. That's all it is. So you can have that full experience.
So we spent a lot of time talking about AAA games and how monetization is affecting AAA games, but it's also affecting titles everywhere, all over the spectrum. And it really comes down to how early access has changed gaming. And I want to talk about crates, and I want to talk about crate systems in that and money. But first, with PUBG, I want to say, when I first started playing that game, there was only 2 different kinds of vehicles. There was no motorcycles. There was no... The VSS wasn't in the game yet. There was like 4 guns that weren't in the game yet. There's a bunch of different bugs that happened.
Yeah.
There was less armor. Like, things were different. Like, the chat box at the top was different. And, like, all these things are changing every month. But this is a game that sold 5 million copies. This is a game that's not done that sold 5 million copies.
That's crazy, yeah.
Right? I mean, so they made... what's the game? Let's say the game is $30, right? 5 million copies, they made $150 million on a game that's not done.
Right.
And it's great. I'm not criticizing PUBG for being in early access. Same thing with Ark. Ark's another game that sold millions of copies. The game is not out yet. They've released sequels, expansion packs to Ark, a game that is still technically not out yet.
That doesn't even make sense to me. Everybody's like already played that game. Like, I remember you were playing that game with a bunch of other people like years ago. Like, to me, that's like an old game that you used to play, but it's technically not like even done or out. So what happens when it is done? Like, people have already played it.
Yeah.
Are people even going to play it at that point?
I feel like a game comes out when it hits early access. And then, it's changing.
Right.
But it's out. PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, the game's out.
That whole idea to me is just insane because I'm used to, I go to Toys R Us, buy the game.
You get your slip.
Put it in, I get my slip.
Your slip.
I go to the lady. She gives me the game, and it's like I take it home. I play it.
You're done. You're on to the next game.
No. I mean, I would play for a few days or come back to it or whatever. But like, it's just so different.
So, what really made me think about this, and I was glad, like, in this discussion, we've come up with a bunch of different ways that money affected game design,
right,
and affected the way that we play. But the thing that made me really want to do this is I was watching a video by a PUBG guy, and he was talking about the new crate systems that are coming out. So, in Overwatch, to get the different... When you buy Overwatch, you get all of the characters.
Right.
You don't have to buy characters.
Sure.
Everyone has the whole game. And when they create new levels or they add new stuff, you get it all.
Okay.
But if you want to make your character have a different skin, like maybe you want them to be blue, or you want them to be able to, like,
then you have to start
spray
paying.
paint. Then, no. Every time you level up, you get a crate. So there's a way to get it for free.
Okay.
Or you could pay money and get it right now.
Right.
And that's a crate system.
Okay.
It's the same way in CSGO.
Yeah.
You get crates.
Well, that's,
but
yeah.
PUBG only had the free crates. So there were the free crates you could get. You get you win a certain number of games. You get a certain number of points. You get a crate. You can get a hat. You can get shirt. Whatever. You get all that stuff. Then they added a partnership with Twitch. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get the Amazon Prime Twitch outfit.
Right.
Then now they're just gonna have crates that you could buy for money.
See, I'm so not into that shit because it's like, if
so-
I was playing the game of like, why do I want my guy to wear some Amazon Prime fucking outfit? Like, why would
Yeah,
you
why
do
do I want him wearing a Twitch shirt? Like, that's a little weird. In this, like,
'Cause
Russian...
Isn't there, like, one dude
Yeah.
who's, like, a cowboy guy or something, and then you're gonna have him wear some, like, Twitch hoodie? Is that what it is?
Well, that's Overwatch has McCree.
that's Overwatch.
But,
Well, sorry,
but yeah,
yeah.
in PUBG, you're like a bunch of people jumping in the, like, the Russian wilderness.
Right.
With your Twitch shirts on.
Why?
I don't
like,
know.
It's like out of place for what the game is.
It's a little weird. But, you know, a lot of games, like DayZ had that problem. With DayZ, all they cared about were the crates. And development wasn't happening.
Right.
On anything other than, oh, well, we have all these game-breaking bugs, but here's a funny hat.
Right.
You know? It's
Yeah.
like, don't do that. So PUBG's taking the first step. You know, they've already sold the 5 million copies, made the $120 million or whatever, minus fees and whoever they had to pay or whatever. Now we're going to have crates.
Well, just because they add, like, hoodies and things that you can wear that's not hindering the gameplay in any way.
Well, so...
Because I want to know what is it that's hurting the game?
There's two schools of thought, right?
Yeah.
So, how is this game affected by money? Number one, it's in early access. It's a game that's not out yet.
Okay.
So, it's constantly changing. That's one way that money is affecting it. Number two, now development resources are being spent on this crate system instead of... There's, like, a bridge that has, like, no textures on it.
Oh, yeah, because... Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
Like-
they're focusing on people getting the outfits and stuff like that and the crates instead
Yeah.
of fixing the actual game.
Yeah, but by the
sure.
same token, it's not all negative, right? Because PlayerUnknown and his team of developers didn't have millions of dollars when they started developing this. And now, because of early access, because they created this phenomenon with their base game, this game is going to have a lot to it in the future, right? Because they have the money to do what they need. So that's why early access is a good thing. That's why
I like the
monetization's a good thing.
I like the way it worked in Shovel Knight, if you remember, because I bought the game on Steam and I played through Shovel Knight, and then at some point later they released Plague Knight, and if you beat Shovel Knight, you get to play Plague Knight. I didn't have to buy it. It's just I got to play it, and then I beat Plague Knight, and then I played through Spectre Knight. Which that was my favorite version of the game, by the way. I love that. But I didn't. But what I'm trying to say is, I didn't have to pay. I just had to play the game and beat it, and then I got to play the next one. That's the way to do it.
I thought that was amazing. And the reason it was that way was because they promised their Kickstarter backers that in the beginning.
Okay.
I'm curious when the next Yacht Club game comes out. Do they stick to that model?
So is that sort of a unique thing? Like they normally wouldn't do that?
Normally it would have cost money. And
Yeah.
and I would argue that it should have cost money. Like, compared to other games. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it was bad that it didn't.
Well, I can say this, because I liked Spectre Knight better than Plague Knight.
Right.
So, but if you did it the way I did it, I had to beat Plague Knight to get Spectre Knight. I would make the argument that, like, if I was going to recommend James to play the game, I would say, hey, James, I think you should play Spectre Knight because I enjoyed that the most. Why don't you try playing that one? But if he was going to buy the game, he'd have to go through all that to get to it, and he doesn't have a lot of time to be able to get that far. He would never get there. So in that case, I think you should be able to buy it separately.
Right.
Like, there should be that option. I used to play Kingdom Rush Origins.
Yeah.
And I played the shit out of that game, and I really, really liked it. And it was a game on the cell phone. I like tower defense games, but it got to the point in the game where so many enemies and stuff come out so quickly that you need these other, like, items where it's like a thing that kills everything on screen, or like all these different things, the really good, like, things that you can buy. So what you can either do is sit there and watch a bunch of ads, and then you can buy, like, the one item that kills everything on screen. You can do that all day. Or you can purchase it with actual money. But it's like, you shouldn't have to do that, because with old games, with like retro games, it was like you played the game, and if you were good enough at the game, you could progress in the game. I felt like I got to the point where the game was becoming stupid, because it was like, all right, well, let me watch 500 ads, and then I can get like a bunch of these things to kill all the enemies on screen, or let me buy it with real money, which I didn't want to do.
See, and that game design, you like that game.
And I liked that game until that point.
And the game design was compromised.
It was.
By the monetization.
It was.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. And I feel like it's a careful balance. And you have all these tools. You have microtransactions, you have DLC, you have early access, you have crate systems, you have all of these choices. How would you feel if Activision or if Electronic Arts said, you know what, we can't make games unless they cost $100. We can't make good single-player games unless they cost $100. Would you rather the games cost $100, or would you rather them have all these things sprinkled in?
Okay, well, when I was a kid, I'm going to go back in time, and I was, 12 years old or something like that. I remember going to Toys R Us and buying Final Fantasy 3.
6. Oh, yeah,
6,
3, yeah.
But 3 in America for Super Nintendo. And I think the game was like $70 or $80, which is expensive, even back then. If I had to spend $100, yeah, personally I would, but I think there's a problem with that, in that a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people are going to don't want to spend probably more than $50 at the most for a game, I would think.
The biggest games on Steam now,
yeah,
whether it's CSGO, Dota, League of Legends, games like that are huge. The biggest, most profitable games.
But the thing is, Ryan, what's the difference?
Are all free.
Okay, well, there's that, but what's the difference? Because, like, if you spend $40 for a game, but then you have to spend all this money in microtransactions, it could end up being more than $100.
It will end up being more than
and it most likely will end up being. So why not just buy the game for $100 and then just be done with it?
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the point they're making. The point they're making is games have gotten so expensive. Like, this is like the counter argument.
Sure.
Games have gotten so expensive that we can't make them unless, there's after purchase transactions to make it worth our while. And people are demanding patches, and people are demanding DLC, and they're demanding more and more content, and we can't give them that content unless they pay for it.
I mean, I wonder how true that is, because...
Or do you think it's just greed?
I mean, I don't know enough about the whole developing process to even answer this question. And this whole video is really just... we're opening up a question. We want your guys' opinion.
Absolutely.
We're not stating any facts here. We're just kind of like wondering, because, how true is that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is probably some middle ground.
Because all these games that we play on Steam, like these indie games, how much do they cost to make? They don't cost $1 million, but I guess you're talking about like AAA titles.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there's kind of it's interesting, like, for a while there was these weird online games, the Dotas and Leagues and stuff like that, and then there was console games. And for a while the single player console game or even the multiplayer console game with little to no DLC hung on. And now we're kind of seeing a convergence, much like we're seeing a convergence between PC and console in other ways, where the updates, like I don't think early on Xbox and PlayStation supported the rapid update process that you need to be able to add skins and characters and things like that all the time, because it just costs a ton of money to get the games validated. But I think that you saw we're seeing like PC and the systems be the same, and we're seeing the transactions become part of all gaming. Whereas before it was just PC and mobile. Now it's...
And I think that's why we made this video, and what the problem is. It's becoming so prevalent now. Like, it used to be, like, you could still get single player games, but then there's this other area where there's these people getting games with microtransactions and all this other stuff. But now it seems like it's really just leaning towards that, where almost everything you play is like most of the games out there now, they're online multiplayer shooter games. Like like your PUBGs and you can name what are all the games.
Like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, or like Doom was the exception, but then there was Overwatch around the same time. Look at the Friday the 13th game, the new Friday the 13th game. When you think Friday the 13th, are you thinking multiplayer game where there's all this, or are you thinking like single player, like story based, like?
I'm thinking I can sit down and I'm either gonna be the one of the kids in the camp, or I'm gonna be Jason, and I guess that's how this game is. But you're playing with all other people, and you got to connect to servers and all this stuff, and it's not just like. When I thought that they were going to release the Friday the 13th game, I'm like, oh great, I'll go to GameStop and I'll buy the game and I'll put it. And I'll put it in my PS4 and I'll play it, and it's like that's not even how it is. It's just like I can't even do that.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing. That's one thing we didn't talk about from money.
Yeah.
How many games are there that are download only now, with no physical release?
It seems like most of them now.
Probably by numbers, most of them, but then bigger releases trickle through and things like that. But anyway, we wanted to share this topic with you because we felt like it is one of the biggest issues in gaming right now, and it's informing all kinds of decisions for publishers, and it's really changing the way that we consume video games.
So we just gave some thoughts on what we think, but this is really also about you guys. I want you to let us know, discuss in the comments, and do you think that all this is affecting game design?
And is it positive or negative? Let us know.